Hi everybody, welcome to GTCoding. In this tutorial series, we are converting this Figma design into a real website using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. And let me open Chrome and this is our progress as of now. We have designed the hero section and the testimonial section and also the our courses section. Now in this video, we will design the app section and also the footer. So if you go back to our Figma design, this is how it looks. We have this get our app section and then we have the footer over here. So let's get started. Alright, here I'm in the source code. So let's go to the HTML and here we can see for the app section, we have this section with the class of app section. So let's target that in our CSS. So here in the CSS, I'll just create a comment. I'll just type app section and let's select the class over here. So we have a class called app section. And the first thing we will do is we will center align everything. So here I'll just type text align and set it to center. Now let's go to our Chrome and here we can see everything is center aligned. Alright, the heading and the paragraph look alright. So we need to style these buttons. So let's go back to our Figma file. And here we can see both these buttons are one next to the other. So let's go back to our HTML and here we can see for the buttons, we have this division with the class of app buttons. So let's target that. So here I'll just type app section, app buttons. And we need to set the display to flex so that the items will be one next to the other. And we'll also align items to the center and justify content to the center. Alright, now let's go back to our Figma file and let's see what is the gap between these buttons. So if we double click over here and if you press Option or Alt, we can see that we have a gap of 30 pixels. So let's go back to our CSS and here we will type gap 30 pixels. Alright, now let's go back to our browser and here we can see we have both the buttons. We'll also add some margin top for these buttons. So I'll just add a margin top of 24 pixels and I think that looks alright. Now let's style these individual buttons. So if you go back to our HTML, for each of the buttons we have a division with the class of app btn. So let's target that. So here I'll just tap app section, app btn. And let's go back to our Figma file and let's see what are the styles. So let's select one of these buttons. Let's go to inspect and here we can see we have a padding of 20 pixels and 31 pixels. I'll just round it down to 30 pixels. So I'll just copy this padding and let's go back and paste it over here. And we have a background color of black. So let's copy this and let's paste it over here. Alright, now let's go back to our browser and here we can see we have the buttons. We'll also set the text color to white. So I'll just type color and set it to white. Now we want the image and the text to be center aligned vertically. So let's go back and we will set the display to flex and we will align items to the center. And let's go back. And now we can see that the text and the image are aligned to the center vertically. Now let's add some gap between these two elements. So let's go back to our Figma file and let's double click over here. And let's see what is the gap. We can see we have a gap of 14 pixels. So let's go back and here we will just type gap and set it to 14 pixels. And let's go back to our Figma file and here we can see we have a fixed width for these buttons. So we have a width of 309 pixels. I'll just round it to 310 pixels. So let's go back and we will set a minimum width for this button. So just type min width and set it to 310 pixels. Right, now let's go back to our browser and now we can see we have these buttons displayed over here. Alright, now let's style this text. So let's go back to our Figma file and let's double click on this text and let's go to inspect and let's scroll down. And here we can see the CSS of the text. So I'll just copy all of this. And let's go back and go to our HTML. And for the text, we have a span. So let's select the span. So let's go back. And here let's type app section, app btn, span. And let's paste the CSS. And I'll just remove this text align from here. And also this comment. And we also don't need to have this line height. And let's remove the font style. And we'll also add sans serif over here. Right, now let's go back to our browser and now we can see we have the styles applied to the text. I think the font size is a little bit too large for this button. So let's go back and I'll just change the font size to 20 pixels. And I think we'll also decrease the padding a little bit. So here I'll just add a padding of 16 pixels top and bottom. And now the button looks alright. Now you can go ahead and keep the same styling that you have over here in the Figma file. but I just felt like this looks better. Right now the next thing we will do is we will style this footer. So let's go back to our Figma file, and here we can see for the footer we have the dark background color that we created. So here we can see we have this color code, and we have this color over here in the variables. So this is the color right here. So we're going to use this color for the background of the footer. So let's go back to our HTML, and here we can see we have this footer element. So let's add a background color for this. Let's go back to our style.css file, and I'll just add a comment. I'll just type footer, and here I'll just type footer, and let's add a background color of the dark variable. So if you scroll up, we can see that we have already created this dark color variable. So let's use this variable. So here I'll just type var dark color, and we'll also set the default text color to white. Right now let's go back to our browser, and now the next thing we will do is we will add a padding top and padding bottom, and we also need to have some margin between this app section and this footer. So let's go back, and we will have a margin top set to 100 pixels just like all the other sections. And now let's go back to our Figma file, and let's see what is the padding. So here we can see we have a padding top of 70 pixels. So let's go back and let's add the padding. So I'll just have padding of 70 pixels top and bottom, and 0 for left and right. Right now let's go back to our browser, and now the next thing we will do is we will style these anchor tags. So we need to change the color of the anchor tags and also remove the underlines. So let's go back and let's target the anchor tags. So I'll just type footer A and text decoration to none to get rid of the underlines, and we'll set the color of the text to white. Alright, now the next thing we will do is we will style these headings. So for the headings we want to have a color of orange. So let's go back to our HTML, and here we can see for the headings we have an S3, and we have already created a variable for the orange color. So I'll just type footer S3 and set the color to var orange color. Alright, that's it with the heading. Alright, now the next thing we will do is we will remove these bullets. So for that let's target the UL. So if you go back to our HTML, we can see we have this UL over here. So let's target that. So here let's type footer UL, and we will set the list style to none. So this will remove the bullets, and we'll also set a padding left of 20 pixels. Right now let's go back to our browser, and the next thing we will do is we will add some margin between each of these list items. So let's go back and let's target the list items. So I'll just type footer ULLI, and let's type margin 16 pixels top and bottom, and 0 for left and right. Right now the next thing we need to do is we need to set all these links one next to the other. So if we go back to our Figma file, we can see there are 3 sections over here. So let's go back, and in our HTML we can see that we have a division with the class of links container. So in the links container we have all these links. So we have 3 divisions with the class of links. So let's target this container division, and we will set it as a display of grid. So let's go back, and here I'll just type footer links container, and let's set the display to grid. And now we can specify how many columns we need to have. So let's type grid template columns. Now here we can set the width of the column by fractions. So let's type 2FR for the first column, 2FR for the second column. So both these columns will have the same width, and for the last column we will have a little higher width. So I'll just type 3FR over here. Right now let's go to our browser, and now we can see we have these 3 columns over here. Now the next thing we will do is style these icons. So we need to have some left margin for these icons. It should be aligned with this email ID over here. So let's go back, and for the social media icons we have a division with the class of social. So let's target this. Here I'll just type footer social, and let's set a margin left of 20 pixels. Right now let's go back, and we have the correct margin. Now we'll also have some gap between these 2 images. So let's go back, and let's select the images over here. So we have anchor tags over here, and in that we have the images. So let's add some margin right. So I'll just have footer social A, and let's set a margin right of, and let's go back to our Figma file, and let's see what is the margin. So let's double click over here, and we have a spacing of 28 pixels. So let's go back to our CSS, and here we'll just type 28. Alright, that looks alright. Alright, now the next thing we will do is style this input field and also this button. So if we go back to our Figma file, this is how the input field and the button looks. So the first thing we will do is we will set a margin left to this form to align itself with both these elements. So let's go back, and if you go to the HTML, we can see that we have a form. So let's target this form. So here I'll just type footer form, and we'll have a margin left of 20 pixels, and we'll also have some margin top. So we'll have a margin top of 16 pixels. Right, now let's style this input field. So let's go back, and let's tap footer form input, and let's go back to our Figma file, and let's double click over here, and let's go to the inspect, and here we can see we have the styling for the text inside the input field. So let's copy all of this, and let's go back to our CSS, and I'll just paste it over here, and let's remove this comment and the font style, and we'll also add sans serif over here. Now we also need to have a border radius for this input field. So let's select this, and here we can see we have a border radius of 8 pixels. So let's go back and let's add that. Here I'll just have border radius of 8 pixels. Now let's go back to our browser, and we'll also add some padding. So we will add a padding of 8 pixels top and bottom, and 32 pixels left and right. And we'll also remove the border. So let's go back and let's type border of none. Right, now let's set the width of the input field to 100%. So let's type width 100%. And now we need to position this button over here on the right. So for that, let's set the position of this button to absolute, and we will position this button relative to this form. So let's go back. We will set the position of the form to relative. So just tap position relative, and let's target the button. So for the button, we have this class of submit button. So here I'll just tap footer form submit button, and let's set the position to absolute, and we'll set the right position to 5 pixels, and we'll also set the top position to 50%. And now we can see that the button starts from the 50% mark. So here we have to type transform translate y and set it to -50%. And now we can see that the button is exactly in the center. Now let's go back to our Figma file, and let's copy the styles for the button. So let's double click on this button, and here we can see we have the styles. We have the dark color, and we have a border radius of 8 pixels. So let's go back, and let's type background, and we'll set it to var dark blue color, and border radius of 8 pixels. And we'll also add a padding of 8 pixels top and bottom, and 32 pixels left and right. And we'll also remove the border. Alright, now let's style the text. So let's go back to our Figma file, and let's double click on this text. And here we can see we have the styles for the text. So let's copy all of this, and let's go back, and I'll just paste it over here. And let's remove the font style, and we'll also add sans serif over here. And we'll also remove this comment and this line height. Alright, now let's go back to our browser, and now we can see we have the button correctly styled. We'll also set the cursor to pointer. So here I'll just tap cursor pointer, and now when we hover over this, we have the cursor set to pointer. Alright, now the last thing we will do is we will add some margin top for this copyright information. So let's go back to our HTML, and we can see we have a paragraph with the class of copyright. So let's target that. Here I'll just tap footer copyright, and let's set a margin top of 36 pixels, and let's see how it looks. And that looks alright. So that's basically it with the footer of our website. So in this video, we have designed the Get Our App section and the footer. So that's it for this video. If you have any doubts, you can ask in the comments below. And if you like this video, please click on the like button and subscribe to this channel to get the latest video updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.